Hi there, I'm Lauren from Go for Growth, and today I'm going to be running through the About You document as part of the application for the Lewis Club. So the About You document is split into three parts. Part one is the Who Are You section. So part one, you'll provide general information regarding your organisation, such as your VAT number, details of persons of significant control and details of your parent company. Parts of part one will only be applicable to some. You will notice that anywhere you aren't necessarily needing to provide the information, it will state if applicable in brackets to the right. Now you are reminded just below part one to answer the questions below in full. Where you have answered yes to a question, you may be asked for supporting information at a later date. So to get started then, the first question is the full name of the organisation submitting the information. So the full name of your organisation, that is. Next, your registered office address. You'll see that this does state if applicable. So if you don't have a registered office address, leave this blank and move on to your registered website address. Again, only if applicable. Next then, your trading status, so whether, for example, you're a public limited company, a sole trader. If none of the options from A to F are applicable to you, you can select G, which is other. However, you will need to specify your trading status. Next then, so your date of registration in your country of origin. Then your company registration number, if applicable. You can view a company registration number using Companies House. I have linked or attached a link to Companies House below in the description. Then similarly, a charity registration number if you are registered as a charity. Next, a head office DUNS number. Go for Growth do already have a guide on YouTube to finding your DUNS number, which again is linked in the description, but if you need any further assistance with this, please do just let us know. Next then, a registered VAT number or your organisation's registered VAT number. You will need to provide this information before moving on, so just ensure not to skip that question. The next, you are then asked whether you do hold the relevant licences to operate a social club which sells alcohol. So you are able to answer yes or no to this section, but I will note the following question does confirm that if you have responded no to that question, can you confirm that you will hold the relevant licence prior to the start of the lease? So if you are answering no to that question to begin with, you do need to ensure that prior to the start of the lease, if you are successful, that you do then have those licences in place. Once you've answered those two, then you will move on to relevant classifications. So you need to state whether you fall within one of the below, and if you do fall into any of those brackets, which ones. So voluntary community, social enterprise, whether you're a VCSE, a sheltered workshop, or a public service mutual. If you do classify as any of those, detail that in the box next to it. Then, so whether you classify as a small, medium or micro enterprise, so an SME. The EU definition of an SME is linked here below, so do follow that if you are unsure. Before moving on to the next question, which asks for details of persons of significant control where appropriate. Again, if you are unsure, you can use Companies House to check details of your organisation's persons of significant control. This is the information that I'm highlighting now you will need to provide if relevant. If this question isn't relevant, simply type NA before moving on. Similarly, below, you're asked to provide details of an immediate parent company or details of an ultimate parent company. Not all organisations will have these, so if not applicable to yourself, simply type NA before moving on. If you do have an immediate parent company or ultimate company, do provide the details requested below. Before we do move on then, I will note that it does advise a criminal record check for relevant convictions may be undertaken for the preferred organisation and the persons of significant control within that organisation. Next then we move on to contact details and the declaration. So this is where you'll provide details of the person within your organisation to be contacted regarding the application, and whether that's you or somebody else who will be dealing with the application after submission. You'll need to provide a name, the name of the organisation they work within, their role within the organisation, a phone number, email address, postal address, a signature, an electronic signature is acceptable, and the date of the that the contact details and declaration box has been signed. So in this section then you are being asked also to confirm that, or that you do declare that the information you have provided is accurate, that you understand your information is going to be used in the selection process to assess your organisation's suitability, that you understand the authority are able to reject the submission in its entirety if you have failed to answer the relevant questions in full, or if there's been any false or misleading information or content provided, and that's in any section. Also, you do need to be aware of the consequences of serious misrepresentation. Once you have provided those details, then we can move on, and we will be moving on to part 2 of the application, which is exclusion grounds. So these are exclusion grounds which would normally apply when the trust is conducting a formal procurement exercise, but due to the importance of the project in question, the authority are wanting to ensure that any organisation that they work with do uphold those same standards. So you are expected to answer these questions in full. Now, Go for Growth do have actually a full video on mandatory and discretionary exclusions. I have linked this below, so if you want to have a watch of that to assist you with completing this section, and we'll get started. So I'm going to run over this section briefly. What you are advised to do before completing the below questions is to visit this web page. There's a link to the web page highlighted in blue, and that's for you to refer to whilst completing the questions. So you'll see that most of the questions in part 2 are yes or no. Anywhere you are needing to provide further information, it will be detailed what you need to specify below. Say, for example, 2.1b, if you answered yes to 2.1a, you'll provide further details as requested here in this box. And that includes the date of conviction, for example, the identity of who's been convicted. Also, if the relevant documentation is available electronically, please provide the web address, issuing authority, precise reference of the documents you are asked to provide. So once you've completed that first section, which is section 2, so that section 2 actually does cover, I did forget to mention, the mandatory exclusions. Section 3, as part 2, is the grounds for discretionary exclusion. So the discretionary exclusions then of an organisation are set out on another web page. You can link to the web page by selecting the blue web page button. Then you are asked to indicate if within the past 3 years, anywhere in the world, any of the following situations are applied to you, your organisation, or any other person who has powers of representation, decision or control within the organisation you are applying on behalf of. Then yes or no to the majority of those questions. Anywhere you are needing to provide extra detail, it will advise, such as here in 3.1. Once you come to the end of the discretionary exclusions, then we can move on to part 3, which covers additional information. Okay, so the additional information section is where you'll confirm whether you are able to provide extra information upon request if needed. It is information detailed below, so you confirm before you do submit this application. So first you are asked whether you are able to provide your last 2 years audited accounts. You can answer yes or no to this question. However, if your answer is no, you'll then confirm below whether you are able to provide an alternative from the options detailed below. So you'll answer yes or no to A, B or C if you have answered no to the first question in this section. If you have answered yes, you can leave A, B and C blank. So just to confirm, any information that you are confirming you are able to provide, if the authority are requiring this information, you'll be requested for it through the portal. So once you have confirmed yes or no to the economic and financial standing questions, we can then move on to the insurance section below. So the insurance section is a real quick one. It's just asking you to self-certify whether or not you already have or can commit to obtaining the levels of insurance cover detailed below. And this is before commencement of the contract. You'll need to have these. So if you read over the requirements, if you can confirm that you are able to get the employer's liability insurance, public liability insurance, up to the amount stated below, you'll then answer yes or no below here. Once you have completed the insurance section, then that does actually bring us to the end of the About You documentation. That's part 1, part 2 and part 3. Thank you very much for watching. If you do require any further assistance, please don't hesitate to get in contact with myself. I'm contactable on lauren@goforgrowth.co.uk. I will leave contact details in the description below, along with the other links stated earlier within the recording.